Hi, thanks very much for the introduction. Really pleased to be talking to you today. We can go through, next slide, disclaimer, next slide. So Spectur is very much a purpose-driven organisation. We're about making communities safer, smarter and more sustainable. And we focus on a couple of specific areas where we do that. Next slide. The places that we focus on is outdoor areas where it's not convenient to have people all the time. It's either expensive or it's not safe to have them there. And also where you can't have data cables or power cables, which means either the cost of running them is too expensive, the application is temporary, or it's in a remote area where there's just no access to those sorts of things. That's a big accessible market. And the solutions that we do, or the problems that we solve now, are often around safety and warning, security applications. We do environmental monitoring across a range of solutions, and also as a general sort of generic smart cities type platform where we can deploy artificial intelligence solutions either on the edge or in the cloud. Next slide, please. What does that look like? There's a few things that are going on here. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see we have some unique hardware, which we design, build and manufacture. These systems, they're almost like robots that don't move so much. They can sense through cameras and other sensors. They can think with edge artificial intelligence and machine learning, and they can take actions, whether it's speaking to people, whether it's turning on a light, opening a gate, opening a box, those sorts of things. And then we have other devices that aren't Spectur specific devices. For example, weather stations, Bureau of Meteorology data, other remote IoT sensors, and these all connect to our cloud platform. And in that cloud platform, which is very modular, we can connect in other artificial intelligence in addition to what we do on the edge. It's designed with very simple APIs, so you can just plug in other AI, and then that is fed to the customer in a very simple, easy to use, single place, whether it's on an app or whether it's in a web application. They can see combinations of camera data and sensor data, charts, all in live real time, and also utilizing artificial intelligence and bringing that together. We can also connect it to other third parties, for example, a security monitoring service. So that gives you a bit of a feel for the ecosystem that we're in. Next slide. So Spectur is quite unique. And that platform that I just described to you brings a number of quite unique competitive advantages. Initially, I mentioned sensing, thinking, and acting. Our platforms can do all of those things. A CCTV camera really just senses. This is so much more than that. They're deployable remotely. Everything is done using a solar powered platform. What we do is we design and manufacture our electronics and write our code as well. That enables us to do very, very efficient power and data solutions. So we can, for example, deploy 4 separate cameras, all with artificial intelligence on the edge on one platform. No one else can do that because they're building using third-party solutions. Our system is fully integrated, as I mentioned before. It's also fully programmable, so we can provide other solutions from our own or from third parties on the device and in the cloud. And it presents all the data in one place. And again, it's quite unique to be able to have live camera data and sensor data in one place, also accessing artificial intelligence solutions in real time. That is quite unique. We're Australian, although we're also in New Zealand too. As I mentioned before, we design and manufacture it here. Our solutions are used on Department of Defence bases. They're used in places where there is sensitivity, and given that so much of this type of stuff can be built in other countries, we are a sovereign capability. That gives us a real advantage. I guess the other two things that are quite important, the top one on the right is the fact that you can either purchase or rent it. So customers that want a one-stop solution, so for example, a hire company, I want to have the solar panel, the cameras, the connectivity, the pole, everything, we can provide that. Almost no one else sells. They'll sell you a camera, but then you've got to figure out how you're going to install it and what pole and battery and the like. So we have a turnkey solution. And similarly for AI companies, they want to be selling SaaS solutions. They don't want capital intensity. We can provide them a solution that they can either rent for short terms and deploy their AI on it, or that they could lease for longer terms, or even that they can purchase themselves, but at a much lower price than if they were to build a bespoke solution that they might only use for a short period of time. And the last part that I wanted to mention as well was it is modular and open. So both, you can have any sort of camera, any sort of sensor, any different AIs. We provide a very open ecosystem as well. Next slide. Just touch briefly, a lot of opportunity here. We are really only scratching the surface on, this is just some of the places that we operate. You can see very large opportunity. Next slide. Another way of looking at it is today as a company, we have about 2,800 cameras or 2,300 systems installed around predominantly Australia and New Zealand, although we do have a few in America. We started out in WA, 45% of our business is here today. Just the opportunity to expand that would have a 5-fold increase on us as a business. So, and the market itself is increasing as well. So this is effectively a very large market, largely underserviced. That's growing at the same time. We have a unique offering in it. Next slide, please. Some of the recent things we've done is we acquired Three Crowns Technologies in February. That gives us this really fantastic way of visualizing data all in one place. It's fully widgetized, really adds to our tech stack. And they also bought a lot of other revenue too. And we took out our New Zealand joint venture partner. So we're 100% owned there. We've been doing some great recruiting to really take this integrated platform to the market in an outbound way to continue to grow our current sales trajectory and expand it. And we're already seeing offerings being submitted for this combined offering that we have. We've got some great new technology that's just come out and is coming in the next month or two as well. And it's not just new technology and new things. Some of the work we've been doing is going to really have a huge impact on our costs, both in our gross margins around software and hardware, and also in our overheads. Next slide. What does this look like from a business performance point of view? This is looking back into 2018. We had great momentum, then we had COVID, then we've regathered that momentum and we've built a whole new tech stack along the way. This business is not a twinkle in the eye. It's not an idea with 3 customers. We have more than 600 customers. They include institutional level customers such as Optus, state governments, local governments. We're in defence bases. We are a material player and really just at the start of that journey. We've got a huge pipeline. Our current revenue run rate is $5.3 million. That's for recurring revenue. We think we'll do close to 8 million this year, or that sort of, will be run rating at better than those sort of numbers. And when you compare that with our market capitalization, it's quite amazing. And our sales pipeline is very, very substantial too. Next slide. This is our strategy. I won't go through all the details, but the short part of it is there's a lot of opportunity for us to go into other geographies, to go into other market sectors, to offer more solutions. We're going to stay very focused. Right at the moment, we're on the cusp. We're close to becoming profitable, we believe. There's a bit of growth we need to do in our top line, a little bit of control of those overheads, and a bit of gross margin work that we're working on. Our plan is let's get the thing making money consistently, and then we'll build off the back of that. There's some work we're going to do around sales and marketing. A lot of our product work's been done. A lot of the operational excellence work we've got well underway. We certainly have momentum. Next slide. Obligatory capital slide. You compare that market cap with our revenues, it's crazy. Next slide. Last slide, in fact. So what do? We make communities safer, smarter, and more sustainable. It's a real opportunity. It's a positive thing that we do. It's done from a solar platform. It is, ticks many, many boxes. We have a very deep technology moat with there are no competitors that do what we do. It's difficult to access for other people because of the combination of software and hardware that we have, and the 30 million hours of practice we've had so far to get to this point. We've got good revenue, it's growing. We've got a great sales pipeline that's growing. We've got a whole pile of new technology that's coming. The foundation's been set, and we have a strategic pathway to profit and growth into the future beyond that. And I'll take a breath and take a question if there is one or two.
Thanks, Gerard. Yeah, quite a few questions. Fascinating business. You certainly look market cap of 4.5 million with potential of 8 million in revenue. Where's the break-even point? How far away are you from that, and what sort of revenue do you have to achieve?
if you look at our numbers at the moment, we're running at about 55% gross margin. We think there's quite a few points of improvement that are around the corner for us on that. So depending on how you cut those numbers, sort of around $10 million is where break even sits at the moment. We're run rating at close to 8. I think we're probably, those numbers are, have got a little bit of plus or minus on them. But with, we're run rating at about 20% growth rate for this year. We had a little bit of a quiet month in March. I think that number is going to come back up again quite soon. So it's not too far away from us, particularly when we have the margin improvement, the overhead control, and we keep the growth trajectory.
And what's the balance sheet look like in terms of cash and debt, if any?
Yeah, so last quarter we finished with 1.6 of cash, and that was after doing 2 acquisitions. We've got a $1.1 million debt facility that expires in December of this year, which we have a lot of options as to either extending that or converting or doing some other things. It's a fairly standard debt facility. It's not a traditional con note. Other than that, and we also have a lot of assets. We've got a rental fleet of more 400 systems. We've got quite a few assets in technology as well, both tangible and intangible.
And obviously you started in WA, and you can see that from your footprint. How do you intend to kind of increase your exposure into the other states like New South Wales and Victoria, for example?
Yeah, so we have offices in all the major cities of Australia and in Auckland as well now. We've been pushing some of our corporate functions into the East Coast as well. We've just taken on a new sales and marketing manager based in Brisbane for the overall ANZ region for us with great experience. So we're really pushing hard on that because that's just low-hanging fruit. We know we've proven product market fit. We've had tremendous growth in New South Wales in particular over the last couple of years by really applying focus on it. We're just going to fill those gaps in. It's really about collecting low-hanging fruit.
And do you have, are you competitive in terms of pricing compared to what is the other product out there? Is it just a camera on a pole?
The majority of people that, in the security space, the comparison is other people that provide solar-powered security cameras, but almost all of them only rent them. And so because their products are inherently more expensive, our direct costs are much lower because we design, build, manufacture. Now, then we've got more overhead because we've got an engineering team as well. But their systems are inherently less reliable, inherently less effective, can't do as much, but they can rent at a similar price point, albeit with lower margins. In terms of selling our devices, there's really no comparison at all. And when we move into the safety and warning space, particularly on beaches where we're the dominant players, there is no one else. We've had customers that come to us and said, we've spent 18 months looking for you, and now we found you.
And who are your ideal sort of customers? Is it councils? I would have thought councils would be big in this space. Yeah.
So councils, absolutely. So state and local government utilities, particularly those with remote assets, whether it's telcos, power, transmission, distribution, and also, things like surf lifesaving and charities. We do a lot of work for those guys in protecting their assets or protecting their communities, port facilities, port authorities, and then construction customers as well. Temporary works, you're building a construction site, we can provide security, we can provide safety applications, we can provide time-lapse services, we can do license plate recognizing people coming in and out of the vehicle, lots of different things there too. But we're trying to keep it tight. Outbound, we're tight. Inbound, we do receive customers from everywhere, including mining, for example.
And in terms of solar power too, it's considered to be expensive at times and obviously weather dependent. How do you kind of navigate these issues with your product?
Well, we've just launched a new product. It's our Star Power. You can see it on that picture there at the moment. It's the top part of the solution. It integrates lithium power, telemetry, it integrates the solar panel, and it integrates aerials and connectivity all in one simple solution. It's like a PowerPoint in the sky. We've got that solution. It's very simple to install, one person only, and it can power not just our devices, but others. We design our systems to run basically better than 99% uptime, considering the latitudes that they're in and the applications that they're doing. So that means, 5 days of continuous rain and overcast, these things will keep running.
And what about Asia? You mentioned New Zealand. What about the rest of Asia for an opportunity there?
Look, we did a bit of a market entry strategy into the US about 3 or 4 months ago. There's a huge opportunity there. We are pausing that now because we want to really focus on getting on filling out the Australia-New Zealand opportunity. It is so immediately available. It would just dilute us by trying to be in too many places. So we're going to stay really focused. We're going to really look at filling out this market. We could be, an order of magnitude larger without leaving the geographies we're in now.
And any domestic competitors and peers?
Well, again, not with the sort of tech stack that we have. There are people that do solar power security. They're often, fencing and security companies. But they're not a technology company, and they only service security. We also service safety, warning. We do environmental monitoring, such as being able to tell whether a beach is eroding or accreting automatically and without surveys, purely from camera data. We can tell whether or not a sandbar is forming. We're able to provide environmental monitoring data for baseline studies for environmental impact assessments, for example. There's really not anyone else that has that hardware, software ecosystem. Is very flexible like us.
And of course, AI is what everyone's talking about at the moment. How have you used AI and what potential can it give your product suite?
Yeah, so we use AI on the edge of our devices. At the moment, it's mainly for object identification. That's a person, that's a vehicle, for example. And then we have a more powerful AI engines in the cloud. And again, most of the time we're using other people's AI. So we might use one party to do people counting, another party to determine license plate recognition, another party to determine virtually any other application, different types of vehicles. And we've made it very pluggable. We don't want to compete with AI companies. We want to be a platform for AI companies. So we're going to use their stuff for our solutions, and they're coming to us to use our hardware platform for their solutions as well.
Gerard, that's all we have time for. Really appreciated your presentation. Really interesting story, and we'll follow with interest.
Thank you very much.